This is Inside Town Hall, a behind-the-scenes look at city government and the issues affecting you and your family.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Inside Town Hall. I'm your host, Madeline Shields. Coming up on the program, we meet newly elected City Councilor Pat Starr, and later we'll learn about the Bishop Dudley Hospitality House. We'll have those stories and much more when we return.
Hi, my name is Dr. Norenberg and I'm from Falls Community Health. I'm here today to talk to you about sun safety. Sunlight is essential for our body to produce vitamin D and also has beneficial effects on our mood. However, sunlight can also be damaging to our skin, causing sunburn, aging, and even skin cancer. You should be applying sunscreen products with an SPF of 30 or higher and be applying sunscreen approximately 15 to 30 minutes prior to sun exposure. It should be reapplied every 2 hours. If you have any questions regarding sun safety, please contact your physician or Falls Community Health.
Welcome back to Inside Town Hall. We are visiting with newly elected City Councilor Pat Starr. You're from the Northeast District. Tell us a little bit about your background and why would you run for Sioux Falls City Council?
Oh, absolutely. One of the things that has been exciting about the process, my wife and I graduated from college, looked for our first job. We both graduated from Mount Marty in Yankton. Honestly, my wife got her first job, or got the job first, and so she went to work at Avera McKinnon, and I followed along and found a job in advertising and marketing that I've been doing for the past 25 years. So we do what our family has done, exactly what a lot of families in Sioux Falls do. They graduate from college, they graduate from high school, they move to our community for opportunity, and we get a chance to do that. So we have two young children. I have a 14-year-old son and a 8-year-old daughter who's going to be a third grader. So wanted to get into the race and be part of the City Council as a way to give back that the City of Sioux Falls has given to us as a family, and want to make sure that those opportunities are there for other families as Sioux Falls continues to grow, as well as the people who live and work already in Sioux Falls.
And you have immersed yourself in activities in the City of Sioux Falls. You work in marketing and advertising, like you said, but you're also on some boards. Talk a little bit about that.
Sure. I've spent, this is my 9th year serving on the board of directors for the Teddy Bear Den. I love the Teddy Bear Den. It's exactly what a charity should do. It's an incentive-based program for low-income women and their children. So if a person goes to her doctor's appointment, she gets that early prenatal care that she needs, they earn points, and then they get to come to the den and get incentive items that are new, anything from necessity, so a crib and bedding, new clothing, strollers. We provide transportation to doctor's appointments, whether it's tickets or a pass for taxi service, so that they're able to get to those doctor's appointments and get prenatal care, as well as up to 18 months after their child's born. And what's really cool, it's our 20th year, and we're starting to see some people who are participants in our program in those early years are coming back as volunteers now and mentoring, and just a number of people around the community are involved with the den from their churches and drives and things, and it's one of those many steps that we're doing to give back. I also have served on my church council. I've been a Kiwanian for a number of years, and I've been active also currently with Health Connect of South Dakota.
Okay. And you have been elected for the Northeast District. That's where you live. Are there any issues in that area that you plan to address, or what do you see coming up in the future as a city councilor?
Sure. The Northeast District, the northeast part of Sioux Falls, is really unique. We have some of the most expensive homes in town to some of the least expensive homes in town, and people who are unfortunate enough to not have a home. We'll be talking about the Bishop Dudley House later, and it's one of the things that is in the Northeast District, but at the same time helping people where they're at and getting the care that they need to get a hand up. Some of the things that I'm really excited to be working on is just making sure, I hear this all the time from people that, we're busy with families, we don't understand all the things that are going on with the council and city government. That's what they elected me to do, and to be their spokesperson, to ask tough questions, to make things better, to show them how the city can continue to grow and provide opportunities.
What are some of the things that you've watched? Because I think people who run for city office have probably been watching for a while and see and educate yourself a little bit about the issues in the city. What is it that you see that you would like to tackle, I guess?
Sure, there's a number of things, and it's the human services side of it that has really been important to me, is one of the areas, and that's, again, the Bishop Dudley House. It's charities like the Teddy Bear Den. It's opportunities to give back to the less fortunate in our community where I've been involved. But there's other city issues as well that are just the day-to-day things that are involved in running a large organization, and making sure that when we do workforce development or job creation, that we're providing opportunities for families so that they can support their families. No one wants to be part of the Bishop Dudley House, or but at different times in their lives, situations change, but we want to get them back on their feet. We want to give them opportunities. We want to make sure that there's jobs in place as a community continues to grow.
It seems like, there are help wanted signs all over the city of Sioux Falls, so I think people might argue that, well, there are plenty of jobs. But are there jobs that pay enough, and is there affordable housing in the city of Sioux Falls?
You're exactly right. Affordable housing is probably one of the biggest issues that we're facing as a community. We've just completed, the Development Foundation has just completed Forward Sioux Falls 2022. And they're talking about bringing 5,000 new jobs to the community. Where are they going to live? Where are they going to be educated? All those infrastructure things that are so important, and it's what we do as a city. And that's a big part of our role as the council. The other role of the council that I think is kind of exciting, we get to be the dreamers. We get to be the ones that plan for our future. I talk about opportunities a lot because my wife and I were fortunate when we moved here to have opportunities, both professionally and to be able to grow our family, build a house, do those type of things. So making sure that the opportunities that were put in place 20, 30 years ago, whether it's the Development Foundation, the Chamber, people who were involved in our city government, that we're able to put those in place now. We need to be the dreamers so that those opportunities exist 20 years from now. Okay.
And now the mayor has proposed a capital improvement plan. Do you have any comments on that? Have you been able to go through it all and see what's coming up, and what's your reaction?
Okay. First of all, the capital improvement plan is our way of looking at capital expenditures over the next 5 years. So it does look at 2017 first, because that's what we're really funding, but we're having that opportunity to move forward and say, okay, here's the expenses we see over the next 5 years that we need to be planning. So for me, it's a planning document as much as it is a budget document. So yes, the numbers make sense. It's investing in infrastructure, making sure that our roads that they're in a condition that we're proud to be a citizen of Sioux Falls, but to make sure that we're doing that. So we're digging into that process. The mayor just made his presentation to the council, and so we're just starting that process of digging into it.
Do you have any budget priorities coming into 2017? What would you like to see?
Absolutely. One of the things that are really important to me is making sure that every dime is spent well, to make sure that, roads are a perfect example. We all want smooth, safe streets, but we have to make sure that we're taking care of the infrastructure that's below the street. So before we rip into a street and are going to resurface it, we need to make sure that electrical and water and sewer. So for me, making sure that our budget reflects the infrastructure needs of our community. It wasn't that long ago we unfortunately pumped raw sewage right into the Big Sioux River. We've had some failures in the system, and someone said the other day, we were talking about it, that it seems like Sioux Falls has a Cadillac system. We want to have a Cadillac system for our infrastructure, for whether it's clean water. Clean, safe drinking water is so important to people. We don't think about it very often because we turn the tap on. So in the budget process, that's where I'm going to be asking the questions, that we're making sure that we're prioritizing the streets that need to be repaired, but that the things that are under the street that we don't see are taken care of.
Okay. Well, those are the things that you'll be looking at over the next 4 years on the Sioux Falls City Council. At this time, we need to take a break, and when we return, we will learn all about the Bishop Dudley Hospitality House, and we'll have a guest. The Executive Director, Chad Campbell, will be joining us. We'll be back in just a moment.
30 seconds. It's the amount of time this public service announcement will last, and it's the amount of time on your commute that you may be slowed down in a cone zone. These city employees are working hard, and all they ask in return are two simple things.
Number 1, stay alert.
Number 2, slow down.
They all want to get home to their families too, and your patience is greatly appreciated. When you see amber flashing lights or orange traffic cones, stay alert and slow down.
Well, welcome back to Inside Town Hall, where we are visiting with newly elected City Councilor Pat Starr, and his guest is Chad Campbell, the Executive Director of the Bishop Dudley Hospitality House. Thank you for joining us today. Let's talk a little bit about what is the Bishop Dudley Hospitality House.
Well, the Bishop Dudley Hospitality House is an ecumenical ministry that was established in 2015. We opened our doors, and it was a project that was a great project because it had so much collaborative efforts in the community, from city, county, businesses, other nonprofits put together this project so we could create a platform that would allow individuals who are experiencing homelessness and poverty to actually have a place to where they could try to get that step up.
Why did you ask Mr. Campbell to join us today?
I asked Mr. Campbell to join us today because I think it's so important. One of the things that I've been really impressed with the Bishop Dudley House is how it's helped in the neighborhood. And maybe if you take a minute or two of the difference between the role with the police, the Bishop Dudley House, and working with neighbors and taking care of some issues that were there before the Bishop Dudley House was there.
Right. Well, I was a police officer here in the City of Sioux Falls prior to my tenure at the Bishop Dudley Hospitality House, and we always have community-based issues that we need to work on and we need to solve. So prior to the Bishop Dudley House locating where we are at 101 North Indiana Avenue, there were issues that were in the neighborhood. So when we came in, we wanted to figure out how was the best way to actually work on this problem. So one of the big things is that, especially when I was an officer, is that we would find individuals who would be in individuals' backyards or in garages and sleeping, just trying to get out of the cold or what have you. And now with the Bishop Dudley Hospitality House, we've eliminated those kinds of problems because we try to have the mantra of having open doors and open arms to anybody who comes into our facility. So it's working with that neighborhood group to try to figure out how do we best serve those while at the same time preserving the integrity of the businesses, because we know that the businesses is so important in the infrastructure of the community. So we try to do things like go out and talk with our neighbors. You know, one of our neighbors, they do a great job with us. They help plow our snow in the winter time. We have neighbors who we communicate with pretty frequently to address any issues that do occur, because we do have sometimes things that come up and we want to address those head on. But it's really just trying to be that open door of communication, because without that communication, I don't know necessarily what's wrong and I can't address it. So some of the improvements that have happened on North Franklin Avenue with the roadway and now the North Indiana roadway project are just going to create some great things, I think, for the area and for the neighborhood.
How can the neighbors, if they do have a concern, what's the best way to reach you or reach out to the Bishop Dudley Hospitality House?
Sure, I understand, and sometimes that people can have some intimidation factor in dealing with some of the patrons that I serve on a daily basis. The easiest way to get a hold of me is just give me a call. Call down the facility and ask for myself. Just call 809-8424. They'll direct you to my voicemail, or if I'm in, they'll just direct you right to my office, and we can have a conversation about what's happening. My door is always open.
Let's talk a little bit about who you are serving there.
We're serving a lot of different individuals. So for the example, last year in 2015, we served 1,537 unique souls, men and women, who came through our doors. So that's unique people. That's a lot of individuals in our community who are identifying as homeless. So we're serving men and women, and we're serving families. We have 7 family rooms that we really have very intense case management with our collaborative partners to actually work with them to move them along. Last year we served 82 families, and that included 189 children. And we were able to successfully put into employment and put into their own place 52 of those families. So it's a place where we're really working very hard with our guests that we're serving to help get them stabilized. If they need other kind of medical assistance or mental health assistance, getting them connected with those resources, then getting them employed, and then moving them back out into society so they can be productive members again. That's what we try to do on a daily basis.
How is the City Council taking a role in helping facilities such as Bishop Dudley House? And as a newly elected councilor, you know, what's your reaction when you hear those kind of staggering numbers of people in our city who are homeless or have, you know, in transition of some kind without, I guess, enough a bed to sleep in and enough food to put on the plate.
Sure. Let me start backwards at least. I think one of the big things that are really important to me is it still comes down to workforce development. We can help people and we can feed them, we can find them transitional housing, we can work with families to do that, but if we can't find them a good job that continues to be able to feed their family, it doesn't make sense. So one of the priorities for me is looking at places where we can bring jobs, whether it's job training, so that you can move on to something that you can support your family. As a council in particular, we've invested $30,000 in this budget year to help with the cold or during the winter time. The other thing we're looking at with our budget cycle just starting later in July is it being able to increase that to 6 figures. I think we wanted, several of the councilors have said that this is a place where we need to invest as a community. We need to start with getting stabilized the basic needs of being safe and being able to be, this time of the year it's heat. Heat exhaustion is just as devastating to people as cold is in the winter time, and it affects medical conditions, but it's finding the help and then transitioning people to be able to take care of themselves and getting the help that they need.
Okay. What are some other things that you want us to know about Bishop Dudley or to convey to the viewers?
Well, the Bishop Dudley Hospitality House, we serve in a lot of different capacities. As Councilman Starr said, that we do serve during that winter months as the emergency shelter for those individuals who are experiencing the issues of the cold that affects both single men, single women, and families. We are open 22 of 24 hours every single day, and we have day programs. We have resource advocates who intimately work with our guests to identify their individual issues so we can try to connect them with the resources that exist in the community without duplicating our efforts. Because everything that we're trying to do and everything that we're trying to base our operation on is providing an outlet for our patrons to actually get the resources they need to move forward. We don't want to create an environment where people just come and just sit. We want to create an environment where they're actively engaged in making sure that they can provide for themselves long term. And that's what we're really about. And we have great opportunities for individuals in the community to come down and volunteer with us, whether that's during our lunchtime ministry or whether that's during our overnight check-in process, or maybe they might want to just help us with maintaining the grounds and cleaning up the area, helping with grass, things like that. There's a lot of different things that people can do to help us be successful, but the community of Sioux Falls has been so great and so wonderful in supporting us, and we couldn't be successful without everybody's help.
Can we talk a little bit about the lunch program,
Sure.
your lunch ministry, and maybe just give people an idea of how that works? Because we think of the Bishop Dudley Hospitality House as an overnight facility and
Right.
more of a homeless shelter. Talk a little bit about the feeding ministry.
Certainly. So when we created the facility, we wanted to carry on some of the traditions that we had existing at the old Good Shepherd Ministry Center. So with that being said, we didn't want to duplicate any services because the banquet just does such a beautiful job in their feeding ministry. So that's partially a reason I think why the location was where it's at, is because it's easy access to both lodging and their food source. So with that being said, we continue that lunchtime ministry where we're serving anywhere from 80 individuals to 125, 130 individuals on any given day. And that's feeding the singles, feeding the families, and that's all done through volunteering. And that's done through church groups, service groups, etc., where they're either buying the meal or providing the meal. We're helping them cook it or prepare it, and then they just come and serve. So for an hour of somebody's time, they can have a great experience in working with some of those individuals who are less fortunate than us.
Let's talk a little bit about, it's not just people staying at Bishop Dudley that are eating with you. There are
Correct.
people from the community. Summertime is a very difficult time for families. Their kids are home. Everybody knows who has kids home during the summer. All they want to do is eat. If they're bored, they're hungry. And families that struggle anyhow have more difficulties in the summertime. Talk a little bit about who's coming to eat besides your guests that are staying overnight.
We definitely have a lot of individuals who come to our facility during the day who don't necessarily use our nighttime services. But it's a place where they can get some nourishment for them and for their family. It's a place where they can socialize. It's a place where they can interact with other people. We have a playground that's located out in one of our common areas, so the kids are going out and playing in the playground. It's just a great place for people to interact and at the same time connect with some resources that they may not know existed in the community prior to that.
There are other support services there. You talked a little bit about some of the services to try to help people get back to work, but there are also Birthright. Can you talk about some of the other services that are within your walls?
What we really wanted to focus on when we created the Bishop Dudley Hospitality House was providing that stabilization of housing. And we wanted to focus in and collaborate with all those other agencies in the community who do what they do well. So we didn't want to, in essence, recreate the wheel for any of the programming, because there's always so many great people in our community who do what they do well. So it's connecting with, the Veterans Administration. It's connecting with Minnehaha County Human Services and their caseworkers. It's connecting with Lutheran Social Services on their financial programs. It's connecting with Face It Together Sioux Falls, Alcoholics Anonymous, Southeastern Directions for Life. All those different agencies come into our facility, and they have time in our facility to where it'll allow our guests to interact with them and have FaceTime with them directly without a transportation barrier. So that's what's so critical about that, is I believe we have 25 current partners right now who assist us and our patrons that we serve every single day to try to make their lives better.
And a lot of people will say, you're working on all of these job recruitment or job training. There are just going to be some people who, either through a disability or mental health, that cannot work for some reason or another. Let's address a little bit about that. There is always going to be some people that cannot work, and as a city councilor, how do you address those concerns and those needs?
I think that's a very good question, Madeline, because you're exactly right. There are people, but we want to work with people where they're at and take them above and beyond where they're at. That's to their ability. So if that's giving them activities or just a place to be safe, but more than anything, basic housing so that they're taken care of and they're safe within the community and they're good citizens as part of that. So I think as a council, that's something we talk about quite a bit, is that how do we provide the services but make sure that people are doing what they need to do to make themselves better and doing as much to their ability.
As a new city councilor, you see this collaboration between facilities like the Bishop Dudley House. How does that make you feel going into a position where the City of Sioux Falls is really stepping up and taking care of people in need?
You're exactly right. I think that's one of the things that we're proud of our community. It's I'm excited to live in Sioux Falls and raise my family here, work. But at the same time, you as a new councilor, at least for me, is finding a way to maybe take what we have and making it that next step better. We want to make things better before we move on in a short term. This 4-year cycle will go rather quickly, I've been told from previous council members, and so you want to leave it better than you found it. So it's one of the things that sometimes gets a little tough, is because you ask tough questions and you don't want it to be interpreted as being negative or being against something, but at the same time you need the history and say, okay, this is really great, but what can we do to make this better?
Okay. You talked a little bit about needing volunteers and donations. If somebody has an expertise, what are you looking for, and maybe what do you need in a volunteer?
What we need in a volunteer basically is just really simple. Just having that ability to want to communicate with other people, because we're in the people business. So if you are struggling with various issues and you don't necessarily want to communicate with some of our guests, we can find other things for you to do. And we try to focus on having people come down who may specialize in lawn care, people who specialize in maybe helping us with some of our computer needs, because we operate a website and we try to keep that as up to date and fresh as humanly possible. And so people who have expertise in that, people who have expertise in maybe just help facilitating family growth, things like that, to help the families communicate better. The door is wide open to any volunteer with the specialties that they have. All I ask is that they come with a positive attitude and that they come with the understanding that sometimes we see some difficult things, and it takes sometimes time to process that, because in our community we want to believe that sometimes this doesn't exist. And unfortunately it does exist, and we need to address that head on, and I think with all the partners that we have, we're really doing a good job with that, and our volunteers are a huge piece of that success.
One of your volunteer components, you said an intake person. What does that entail, and what kind of hours are you looking for?
Sure. During our intake process, it's very simple. We start accepting individuals into our programming at night at 6:30 p.m. We ask that our volunteers come maybe around 6. We ask for about an hour to an hour and 15 minutes of their time because usually it's very busy right when we open our doors. People want to get a bunk. So all it would take is maybe about an hour and 15 minutes of somebody's time. And we're just going through and we're making sure that nobody's bringing in any contraband and things like that, no weapons. We want to make sure that our place and facility is safe at all times. So we're just making sure that those kinds of things are being brought in. And then it's just providing the things to the guests that they might need. We provide clean sheets and clean linens to all the guests every single night. Maybe they need some shampoo or washcloths or towels, providing that to them and just engaging them in simple conversation to know that there's people in our community who care about them.
If someone's not able to physically come to you, they don't have time or physically can't get there, is there something they can do on their own, a collection or anything that would help you?
Definitely. I mean, individuals can go to our website. We have a great website. It's fresh, it's new all the time. So we have a list of needs on that website. So if people can see some things, if they have various service clubs or church groups and things like that, that they want to start working on our behalf and helping us, we welcome it all. If somebody has financial means they want to help support us with, we welcome that as well. And it's anything that anybody feels that they can do to help us, we'll take it gladly with a smile.
Okay. Is there anything
Well,
else?
I just quickly, the financial part of it, because that's always the hardest part. It's nice when people are able to contribute their time and their talent, but talk a little bit about how their treasure could be used.
The treasure is very important because in a facility such as ours, we are open 22 to 24 hours every single day. And we have to have a staff on staff all the time who can help mitigate any circumstance that may develop. So we have an adequate staff during the day, that mid-shift, and then during the evening hours. We try to maintain at least 3 to 4 employees every single night. And just to operate on a monthly basis, it's quite expensive just to turn the heat on and the lights on and the air conditioning on. And and as you alluded to earlier, Councilman Starr, the fact that we're a cooling center in the summer months is so important because a lot of these individuals are staying out all the time. And helping these individuals, it's going right to the facility, and we need everybody's help so we can keep our doors open.
Okay. Well, great. Well, we'd like to thank you for joining us for
Thank you.
Inside Town Hall. And we'd like to welcome you to the City of Sioux Falls as a new council person. Well, that is our time for Inside Town Hall right now. If you would like any more information or we want to know how to get a hold of Councilor Starr, you can go to siouxfalls.org. You will have all the information. You can get the latest news and information of what's going on in the city. That's our time. Thanks for watching.